aliens and worms, I'm Cosmicat, thanks for tuning in. I'm back today with another speed art vlog. I just finished this drawing last night and it took around 7 hours from start to finish, and I used Clip Paint Studio along with my Intuos 5S tablet. I realized that for my first video I didn't actually address these things. I did want to talk about how long things took and what materials I was using, because I feel like that's important to give you guys a better idea of what's happening here, how long it takes. You know, you watch the speed art within, 10 to 20 minutes, but it takes me 7 to 9 hours. And, sometimes knowing what tools I'm using can be helpful to people who are also trying to learn. The subject of today's drawing is something of a fan art, actually. A few years ago at this point, when I did more Pokemon fan art and was part of some groups revolving around that on DeviantArt, I met an artist called FerbieFace, and we interacted a decent amount while in the group, but kinda like after the group dissolved, we didn't really talk a lot after that. But I was still following her on Tumblr, of course, because I really liked her art and I still wanted to show support in that way. And recently, she's been posting a lot of art and writings regarding a space-themed story that she's making. And of course, as a fellow space and alien lover, I was immediately smitten with it. I love the story so far, and I fell in love with the main character, Tabris. She's super cute, fun, and I absolutely love her attitude. A lot of what prompted me to do this art was how similar Tabris and Nymin are, Nymin being the main character of my space-themed story. From a design perspective at least, they both have really long tails, really long thin tails actually, big cute eyes, 3-fingered hands, and they're both pretty thin and small. And I feel like their personalities are similar-ish, but different enough to make them, like if they were to actually meet in their stories or in their timelines or whatever, that I feel like they would be fine friends. And I thought that doing this drawing would be a good way to show my appreciation for the work that Ferbie's been putting in with her story and her art, and I thought it might be a fun way to show solidarity as, a fellow artist working on a space alien themed story. And I hope she likes it. I don't know if she'll even see it. I mean, I'm obviously going to be posting it and adding her on Tumblr, but who knows. And at the very least, I do feel pretty happy with the results. I actually had a lot of fun with this drawing. Links to FerbieFace's regular Twitter and story are in the description below, and I encourage you to take a look. Supporting artists and the things that they're truly passionate about is incredibly important to their growth and motivation. Alright, I'll be doing my best to keep this video shorter than the last one, but I do have something I want to talk about today. Daydreaming. It's a subject that's been heavy on my mind lately, to the point where I actually sought out information about it on the internet. For possibly about as long as I can remember now, playing make-believe has been a huge part of my life. Much of my youth was spent outside with my sister and friend, pretending we were the Powerpuff Girls or characters from Harry Potter, and I could see the imagined world around us as vividly as I could see the dull sidewalk underneath our feet. Even after we grew older and started playing video games instead, I still spent a lot of time inside my own mind making up stories. And I can't even tell you how many I've come up with so far. Like, there must be dozens of stories, and even more characters to boot who I've left behind and forgotten along the way. I can't remember exactly how many years ago my daydreams birthed the story that I'm currently working on, but I can tell you that it's been a world so alluring and so fascinating to me that it's the longest running daydream continuity I've ever had. I spend just about every moment I can thinking about the story, the characters, how they'd interact, where their journeys will take them, blah 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 blah. And it's kind of like the bulk of the way that my story has been written so far. I try to jot down things like actual notes here and there, but a lot of it is kind of stored up in my head. Sometimes I spend days just redreaming the same parts over and over, reimagining them until the characters act just perfect, exactly the way that they would. And honestly, I love it. I love the time that I spend quiet and still, just playing out these vibrant tales in my head. To the point that I wonder sometimes if it's become a problem. As someone who's suffered from depression since my youth, I experience comfort in my imaginary world. I can craft things to go exactly right or exactly wrong, but in all the perfect ways. I spend a lot of time working through my personal curiosities, fears, traumas, and desires through my characters. In some ways, I think this probably helps me process the things that have happened to me, and accept the things that will probably never happen to me. But in other ways, I'm afraid that it isolates me more from the real world. Some days it gets so bad that I actually really get irritated with people if I have to get pulled away from my daydreams to, complete tasks, do chores, or even speak to other people. I tend to push off sleep as long as possible so I can spend time comfortably in my imagination. I even spend... 3, 2, 1. I even have specific music playlists themed around certain moods that help me more vividly picture certain scenes. I wonder sometimes if the daydreaming has gotten out of hand. Or if I'll spend so much time daydreaming that I'll never actually be able to write and draw the story that was created there. I don't know if the daydreaming in itself is a separate problem, or if it's a messy coping mechanism born from the need to escape depression. I also don't know if it hurts me more than it helps me. Part of me keeps thinking that I should stop and, you know, maybe if I were more connected to the present and to, like, the real world, that, I don't know, like, maybe I'd feel better. But then, you know, I turn on the news, or, well, not turn on the news, I guess I look at social media and gain the news from there, essentially. And I see that just terrible, terrible things are happening all the time, and people are saying terrible things to each other simply because, I don't know, they just don't have the capacity to be open to other people, or they just don't, they feel they're superior for one reason or another, and just terrible, awful, messy, dirty, terrible things are happening all the time. It just makes me want to slip back into my daydreams again. It's so easy to just be somewhere else mentally. And in a lot of ways, I think that's why I want to share my stories. The universe in my mind feels so real, and it feels like it feels so real and so big. It just feels like it comes spilling out of my chest at any moment. And doing drawings and writings, it kind of like helps. It keeps it from feeling overwhelming. It keeps it from feeling like I might just burst. And in a way, it's probably a way of making the fiction feel more real to me. If I can see Nymin in front of me, it makes them feel so much more alive than Z already feels to me. And if I can share their stories with the world, then Z becomes real to everyone who reads about them. I worry about myself a lot, though, you know? Like, I worry about, you know, if this is healthy for me, or if this is honestly doing damage that's irreparable, if maybe one day I'll just shut down and never talk to anybody again, or if I'll become so enamored with these characters in my head that nobody in real life will ever feel good enough in comparison, you know? Or worse, that these characters in my head will feel so real that I will never feel good enough. Because in a lot of ways, I tend to project parts of myself onto these characters. I tend to use these characters in my head to work through my own personal strife, my own personal issues and wants and needs. And it's just like a concern. It's just like, is this doing more damage than good? Is this, you know, like the way that some people bite their nails, you know, when they're anxious, or you know, or sedentary, just like sitting there doing nothing, they're just biting their nails, or biting the tip of a pen or whatever. It's like, is that really doing more good than it is bad? You know, like maybe it keeps you from freaking out, maybe it keeps you from feeling as nervous as you could be, but is there a better way? Not that it's necessarily like a bad thing, but is there a better way to handle these things? Is there a better way for me to handle feeling this disconnect from the real world, or this disillusion of the real world, I guess, but in a healthier way? And I tend to do this a lot. I tend to read lots of stories. I tend to read lots of comics. I tend to reread lots of comics, in fact, to feel more immersed in their world. And maybe that's why I want to make and share my own. Maybe that's why I want to put my own world out there, because if these things help me, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, if these things help me to go through my daily life and my daily existence, then maybe it could help somebody else. So in the end, I don't really have a conclusion. I don't really have a definite, yes, this overactive daydreaming is a good thing, or yes, it is a bad thing. But I guess it's helpful probably just to be aware of the situation. It's probably helpful to just be open to the idea that it could be either way, and be open to the idea of doing more research, or possibly in the future talking to a therapist about this kind of thing, and get a more professional opinion on these things. But for now, I'm I don't necessarily have plans to curb this daydreaming habit, partially because it does help me to keep writing. It helps me to keep building my characters and my world and my story. So in that way, I don't see that much harm with it, I guess. I don't know, maybe it's just an excuse because I really like daydreaming. Anyway, I think that's about all the time I have for this transmission. Feel free to chat with me in the comment section about my artwork, my story, or my thoughts on daydreaming, or excuse me, your thoughts on daydreaming in the comments. I do love to talk with you people. I do love to talk with you guys about, you know, just whatever, really. And once again, I would like to mention that I would really appreciate you checking out FerbieFace's Tumblr and showing her some love and support as well. I don't know, I want to try to extend that, you know, I want to try to help out and lift up other artists around me, because I feel like it's important. It's what I want somebody to do for me, I guess. Oh, speaking of me, leaving a like here really helps to keep me motivated and to keep me sharing my work and my soul to the world. And subscribing means that you can keep apprised of the next time I have something to show you. Is it too far to also mention my Patreon? Probably, but I'm currently doing my best to save up for a new drawing tablet, as my current one seems to be getting worse and worse lately, and any bit of financial support is out of this world. If you have your own characters you'd like to see brought to reality like this, you could always talk to me about commission work as well. Alright, enough of that. I've overstayed my welcome. This has been Cosmicat, signing off.